We're here with the Enterprise Marketer Podcast, and I'm here with Michael Brenner. And it is actually an honor to talk to you. And it is weird because I've seen you on stage, but I've never met you. So, how you doing?
I'm great. It's great to meet you as well.
Awesome. So you were at SAP, right? And you were doing marketing there, and then you kind of had a transition recently, right?
Yeah. So I went from SAP to a content marketing technology company called NewsCred, where I was the head of strategy and essentially focused on helping their customers become great at content marketing, and had enough demand from folks who were not interested in technology but wanted the strategy and the help to go off on my own starting in January. So I'm now CEO of my own company,
Nice.
Marketing Insider Group. It's been a lifelong dream to start my own thing, and I wished I'd done it sooner, but really excited and thrilled to be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. So most of the time when you have a small business, you have an entrepreneur that has to do marketing. And so you as the CEO, you get to be the marketer that kind of has to do the business side. What are some of those things that you didn't expect would happen that are happening now that you're running your own gig?
Yeah. I mean, I think like a lot of small business owners, the things that I thought I would be doing aren't the same as the things that I am doing. And just as one example, I thought I would be doing a lot more intensive, let's say, large client, projects and engagements that would be bigger, sort of big rocks. And what I found is I'm doing much, much less of those, and many, many more smaller engagements with nonprofits and startups, and which is actually kind of more fun anyway. So I don't regret the decision. I don't bemoan the fact that I'm doing I'm busy every single day. So that's been a challenge. Just I thought I was going to be doing 3 sort of things, and I'm really doing 2 in totally different volumes. The other advice that I got from a lot of folks before I started was there's a challenge in working on the business and in the business. Which I'm sure you've heard from other folks you've had on the show, and I thought that wouldn't be a problem because I've always thought of myself as pretty entrepreneurial. But simple things like tracking down unpaid invoices, it's I want to kill myself.
Yeah, you just keep a baseball bat nearby, and you say, "Okay, I got to put on my veto hat and go take somebody's kneecaps out."
It's crazy how many, and it's funny because if I have 20 clients, 17 of them pay me without any problem and without any friction whatsoever. And then those the 3 remaining, it's a 6-month process and it's 17 calls. And so, yeah, if I'm allowed to give a message to large companies who have onerous vendor setup processes, I would say, you're sending a pretty bad message out to folks that are just trying to make a living.
Oh yeah, I mean especially like you talked about, when you go into entrepreneurship, you think you're going to work with the big guys, but when you get to the big guys and then they throw out contracts like net 180, and you're like, no, I can't pay the mortgage with that. And you start looking at the small guys. One, it feels better when you come in at a little bit of lower rate, because then it's like you can really win versus trying to hit the coastal rates and stuff like that.
And I've even walked away from projects, not necessarily because it was a big company, but when I think they're trying to fit something in that doesn't really fit, and I know it's not going to be right for me, and I know in the end they're not going to be happy, and so I made that one mistake early this year, and now I've started putting filters on the kinds of projects that I'll do, and that's been really rewarding and really invigorating to just be clear about this is what I won't do. Like net 180 is one example, but it's even just the fit of the project. If I'm not the right person for you, then go find the right person that is. And I've even helped companies find better consultants that might think that they compete with me.
Oh, isn't that awesome when you tell somebody that, and they're like, "What, you drove business away?" It's like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because either they couldn't afford me or we're just not a good fit, and I need to help them anyway.
Right.
We've had one of our competitors in Kansas City. They actually will tell the receptionist, will ask you how much budget you have, and then she will tell you they don't do projects that size.
Wow.
And it's like, wow, that's crazy. That's hard to do business like that. So I mean, that's exciting to see you go from just gigantic company to a little bit smaller company, and now, to this small startup. So about the book, are you planning to do an update soon? Is it something that now that you're kind of on your own, you're finding more time to work on?
So the book has been an interesting thing. I started blogging, and it's not the first time I tried. So I started blogging almost, I was named the head of digital marketing for SAP. It was the first head of digital marketing there. And I thought, I'd kind of gotten into Twitter and I was starting to figure it out. This is back in 2008, so it was pretty long time ago and not as many people on it. And then I thought, if I'm going to have any credibility as a digital marketer, I need to be practicing the craft. And so I started blogging once a week and I really found a passion for it. And my objective was pretty simple, to just share the thoughts and expertise that I had learned and the mistakes I was making, and, really candid human kind of approach, to sharing expertise. And I just loved it. So at some point, I think I tried to I think I wrote 400 posts at this point, and I looked for writers that could just compile the stuff I'd already written into some sort of a format. And I actually paid someone money, and it just didn't work. I think taking the approach of, atoms and trying to build up a piece of a body of work was too difficult. But the approach I'd always taken was answering the questions that I thought people had in the marketing space, or the B2B marketing space, or the digital marketing space, and now largely focused in content marketing. The biggest question that I was getting from clients and prospects was the ROI of content marketing. And if I may tell the story about how the book got written, my co-author and I were both at NewsCred, and we did a webinar on we tried to create the ultimate way to answer the question of content marketing ROI. And we had 200 slides. We had a webinar about math.
Yeah.
And, I thought, no one's going to show up to this thing. It's going to be awful. We're going to spend an hour talking about math. And 1,000 people showed up. I think 1,300 registered and 1,000 people showed up. And we had 15 people comment, we wish you'd turned this material into a book. And so that's basically what happened. It was not an intended thing. It was, like I said, the book sort of, it kind of escaped from our brains, and from this webinar that we did. It was June of last year. And we, self-published, went straight to Amazon. We tried to get to 100 pages. It's actually about 80 written pages, but it's really practical. The surprise has been, we put no promotion into it. It's organically done really, really well. I think Robert Rose told me that if you hit 4,000 copies, you're in the top 1% of all business books. And I think we're approaching that now after not quite a year. So it's been really rewarding just to see, something you didn't really plan to do, but with the right intentions, I think, and with the right focus on the quality of the answer, to see that kind of success. So that was the first book. That was the failed approach, and then the successful or mildly successful approach. But now I'm looking at a different topic. I'm planning another book, focus a little bit more broadly on the challenges in corporate culture and leadership.
Oh, wow. So not even a marketing book.
No.
Wow. That'll be fun.
Well, it stems from the fact that I think the large majority of marketers that face the challenges they face because of culture.
Yep.
And more specifically, a culture that we understand in marketing, but I think non-marketers don't necessarily understand, that the natural instinct of executives is to want to talk about the products that they sell. And it's kind of like their babies, right? We love our babies and we want to talk about them all the time. But that's not necessarily what audiences want to hear. And increasingly, it's what actually turns people off. Yeah. And so culturally, the companies that are successful with marketing are the ones that have truly focused on customers. And while it sounds trite to say, and it's sort of a stereotype and it's overused, there are examples of companies that have done it, and there are things that they've done to implement that across the DNA of the organization. Yeah. So that's what we're going to dive into in the book.
Oh, that's awesome. I think, it's needed. One, because we're at this point in corporate cultures where there is more gender blend at the executive level, and that's already has its struggles. But then when you get these new departments, like the marketing department, finally get a seat at that top table, you have to have those abrupt conversations that say, I know the product's on your mind because the price is on your mind and you want to have revenue, but we have to tell a completely different story, and we have to talk to a completely different group of people and really get that trust to say, okay, you must know what you're doing. I'm going to let you do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an awesome book. Hope you do it in a video form too, because I think if you could put some video training out that I can send to some of these executives and say, here, watch this. We're going to be back in 3 months.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the goal.
Today, real time is the only time that counts. To stay relevant, you have to stay ahead. Your customers want the right information, right now, wherever they are. So how do you meet the demands of today's customers? By marketing in context. Context accounts for a customer's interaction with your brand. So each touch builds on the next, creating more meaningful experiences for your customers. At Sitecore, we call this context marketing. To do it well, you need marketing technology that has three things: contextual intelligence, content management, and omni-channel automation. Contextual intelligence gives you the information you need about your consumers, so the content you manage is more relevant and is automatically delivered wherever your customers are. The Sitecore Experience platform was built for context marketing, so you can create a more personalized customer experience. Demand more from your marketing technology. Demand more from marketing. Own the experience. Sitecore.
Awesome. So now that you're entrepreneur, you've got clients, you've got, the book ideas. Where do you find time to be able to sit down and just kind of think about, be creative and then keep the content going? Because you're putting out regular articles on LinkedIn and your blog, and it just seems like you've got an extra set of hands or something going on. It's just, how do you do it?
It's funny. It's one of the biggest questions I've gotten really since I started writing, and I had a pretty intense job at a very high charged corporate environment. And, and sometimes the question came out of pure curiosity. Other times it came as more of a judgment. Like, how do you find time to write articles and tweet stuff? And, I've never really thought about it. I've never said, I'm going to block this time to do these activities. But, I believe Mark Twain's quote, I love this quote, that deadlines are the greatest source of inspiration. Mm-hmm. And so what I've always done is set deadlines for myself. And Andrew Davis, who's here keynoting tomorrow, he came out with this thing called the 411 rule for Twitter, which is something he said years ago and I still follow today. But it's basically, don't just tweet about yourself, create or share on Twitter 4 articles of somebody else's. Help your audience through other people's content. For every 1 article of yours, for every one potentially promotional or sort of marketing message. I actually extended that more to like 911. Yeah. So I share a lot of other people's content and have for years. And I've built an audience by sharing stuff I think is important or interesting, and not by shilling myself at all. And so that was the commitment. I'm going to do 10 or 11 tweets per day, and I'm going to do 1, and now I do 2 blog articles per week. And through that, I've essentially earned an audience that I wasn't really didn't really set out to earn. So for me, it's not really about time. I always tell people, if you make exercise important, which unfortunately I don't enough, you find the time to do it. And that's what I find with content. So I try to hit, 8 to 10 tweets a day. I try to hit 2 articles a week. Sometimes I even hit 3. The inspiration comes in those moments when I'm staring at a white piece of paper and I don't know what to talk about. And then an article pops in I always tell people I love Ad Age. Mm-hmm. And, it's nothing against Cranes and the people that own that publication, but I feel like in many ways it's an industry undergoing so much change. And there's a portion of their contributors and their readership that are really trying to cling on to this Mad Men past, that even if it ever existed.
Yeah.
And so whenever they write something that indicates that sort of doubling down on the stuff that really doesn't work, it's true inspiration for me. So, that's one way is I read a lot, I, commit to the publishing schedule, and then I find that the inspiration sort of hits me in the moments when I need it.
I think that's how Joe and Robert do their podcast, because they almost always throw an Ad Age post, and then that's what the majority of the conversation is about. It's just like the anti-Ad Age pattern that you just go after. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for joining. And if you have any other final thoughts for a marketer who's struggling on a team, trying to get content marketing off, what would that be?
So I would say build the business case for truly customer-centric marketing. And what I mean by that is the tendency, I think, for any employee, manager, executive is to want to do what they're told. We want to please our managers and our companies. And the way we do that is often through activities, not through results. But when we peel back the onion just a bit and we start to look at the effectiveness of the things that we do, we often find that things aren't effective, and they aren't effective simply because we did what we were told. So my advice to marketers out there at any size company is, if you focus on adding value to your customers and really building a bridge for them to come to you with the right intentions, magic kind of happens. It really does. Even simple things like using keyword research, which, some people think is like a white coat SEO agency kind of a thing. It's just about trying to understand what your audience is interested in. If you create content and campaigns that map to those things, magic happens and results accrue. And then you can start to see how the right focus on customers allows you to show results that you can then use to push back on the natural tendency of companies to just want to talk about themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, when people start dogging on keywords, I always say, go grab an Amazon Echo and just start asking it questions, or Siri, ask it questions. How many times does it come back and say, I do not know what you're asking? And the reason it does that is because everyone asks questions completely different ways.
That's right.
And so you have to start to think about those things like Google Trends and keywords and where other people are landing, because that's what is working. That's what the majority of the people are asking. Well, great. Well, thanks for your time today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.